Welcome to our In Focus discussion tonight on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Back in April, President Joe Biden announced that all U.S. troops would be removed from Afghanistan by September 11th, ending what he calls America's longest war on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. But since then, the Taliban gained control and eventually took over the country's capital city of Kabul. Yet President Biden continued to defend his decision despite criticism after the Afghan president fled the country and U.S. diplomats evacuated the embassy by helicopter. Joining us first is Shabir Baher, a member of Utah's Afghan community who is also a leader in the community as well. Shabir, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
I know it's not an easy time for you. Tell us about your family in Afghanistan. When was the last time that you talked to them and how are they doing now?
I am in touch with my family. They are in Kabul and they still frustrated and hopeless, and they have no place to go.
So what can they do at this point? Is there any way they can, I know some people are trying to flee to the borders, Pakistan, Iran. When they're communicating with you, what are they trying to do?
The problem is here that all the Afghan border was occupied by the Taliban and controlled by the Taliban, and there is no way for them to escape. So the only reason that the people rush to the airport is that at least they feel safe in the airport. They know that they are guarded by American force. So that's the only reason that the people they rush to the airport, even though they know that they have no passport, they have no visa, they can go nowhere, but at least they're trying to buy the time.
It's the safe area for them. When was the last time that you went back to Afghanistan before the Taliban takeover? How safe or easy was it to travel back and forth from the U.S.?
I went to Afghanistan in 2018. I stayed there for almost 3 weeks. It was safe, and my trip was very kind of joyful for me because I'm very familiar with Afghanistan and the route that coming back to United States.
Now, what were your initial thoughts earlier this year when President Biden announced that he would be withdrawing all U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th?
As far as my background, I was aware of the scenario that what's going on that the United States conducted in a peace agreement with the Taliban. So I thought my expectation was yes, that one day the United States would withdraw the troop from Afghanistan.
So you knew it was going to happen.
It's going to happen, but the thing is that when it was the peace treaty is happening under the condition if the Taliban is going to reduce the attack toward Afghan army, but on the opposite side, the Taliban intensified their attack toward the Afghan army. That could be one of the reasons that the Afghan army collapsed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your insight on that. Now, for those that may not be familiar, how dangerous and ruthless can the Taliban be? And can we trust them when they say they won't hurt the people who are hiding right now?
Well, Afghan people and the world is familiar with the name of the Taliban for the last 20 years. So they can say anything, but no one believed that. So to my understanding, I received many email and many text message from Afghanistan that they are searching door to door and finding those who work for the American government or non-profit, or NGO in Afghanistan and Afghan government.
Now, Shabir, did you ever think or expect that the Taliban would gain control of Afghanistan this fast?
No, because on the peace agreement or the peace pact that the Taliban supposed to decrease their violence against the Afghan and international force, but they intensified their attack toward Afghanistan. I never thought that it's going to happen that quickly.
Yeah, you share that thoughts and feelings with a lot of other people as well. With all of this fast developing news with Afghanistan and all these images we're seeing of people trying to evacuate, how are you feeling and how are your community members feeling right now?
I've been in contact with my community here in the state of Utah, and they all shocked and they don't know what to do, and they keep calling to Afghanistan and find out the solution, and there is no solution right now. I hope the United States and the international community step to Afghanistan and curb the casualty and catastrophe in Afghanistan.
And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling shocked. I'm still shocked.
Yeah.
As I spoke with you 2 or 3 days ago.
What are your biggest concerns about the future of Afghanistan?
My big concern is that the catastrophe and the casualty of civilian people in Afghanistan would be more kind of brought in the provinces, in kind of the capital city of Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan. That's my concern. Then I am, hopefully I am positive that the United States and the international community would engage in intensive diplomatic relation with the countries surrounding Afghanistan and find a solution and curb this casualty and catastrophe that is happening right now in Afghanistan.
Now, what do you think can be done at this point to help the people who are in danger?
For the people, hopefully there would be a humanitarian supply and support for the civilian in Afghanistan, and also find a way that those people who are really in danger and their life is in risk could be find a shortcut to escape Afghanistan. I hope that.
Yeah, I think all of us too. Should be your final words. Well, what is your message to our viewers tonight, or what do you want them to think about when it comes to Afghanistan?
I would like to thank you all Utahns for their concern, for their keeping calling me for what's going on in Afghanistan. I hope keep them in your prayer, and hopefully the United States government would act quickly.
All right, you've been hearing from Shabir Bahir, who is a community leader in Utah's Afghan community. And Shabir, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate that.
We're praying for the safety of your family.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Up next in our conversation is Amanullah Rahimi, who is a board member for the Afghan American Cultural Society. And Amanullah, thank you so much for being here tonight. I know it's a scary time for you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I'd like to start this conversation out with understanding how many people do we have in our Afghan community here in Utah, and what businesses are owned by Afghans here in Utah?
About how many Afghans family living in Utah, I think it's since 200, more than 200 families, but it's a few months that we are seeing that a lot of other families are coming to Utah, even from different states. But there's Afghans have different businesses, shop like halal market. They are serving groceries, and also beside this Afghan kitchen, Afghan restaurants. Now Afghans are very active in Salt Lake City.
Do you feel like, as a community leader, that Utah has been accepting and welcoming of Afghans?
Yes, we are very happy. I think Utah is one of the greatest states that welcome all immigrants from different countries. And as far as I see my community, we are welcomed by people, by Americans that live in Utah, and it's one of the best place to live.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. Now shifting to what's happening in Afghanistan, what is the current situation there that you are hearing in the news and social media?
Actually all over the world that Afghans live, these days in social media, news, every Afghan families are concerning, and they are in shock what's going on, and just happen in a night or even in a couple days that Afghan government fallen, and nobody still believe it. Even me, it's a few days that people are discussing and talking, and everyone is in a big shock.
I can only imagine everyone is probably glued to their phones, right? The TV, the internet, just wanting to know updates or maybe updates from your family.
It is the fortnight. Even me, I didn't sleep well. Every morning, like I wake up at 7:30, but it's the fourth night, and I wake up at 5:30 and just turn on the TV and looking to the social media, what's going on, what's new, because every Afghan has family member in Afghanistan, and it's a little bit very sad for us.
I can understand that feeling so hopeless, being across the world and not being able to be there with your family. What is your concern about Afghan interpreters and their families living in Afghanistan since the Taliban took over the government?
I think right now, when we see the situation, I had a Taliban experience, and every Afghan family that living abroad, United States and Europe, or especially those Afghans that work with the Americans organization or interpreters, translators, their fear is that now that maybe one day the new government, the new government that came to Afghanistan, they will follow or border the families. Every Afghan has this concerning. Since I spoke with many families, friends, and everybody concerning about their brothers, sisters, that what will happen to them if the new government find out that their their family members or brothers or any family members that are abroad in the United States, they work. I hope that they will be safe, or the Biden administration think about those interpreters' families, that for especially for mom and dads and brothers, that's a big concerning between us in this community in Utah, when I talk personally with everyone.
Right, and we know the Taliban can't be trusted when they say that, oh, we're not going to hurt those people who have worked with the U.S. I asked Shabir this question. I want to ask you too, because you're also a community leader. How has the news in Afghanistan impacted the Afghan community here in Utah? What are you hearing? How are they feeling?
Since I was lived during the Taliban region in the past, and now there's a new generation in Afghanistan that they don't have experience with the Taliban. They only heard in the media. But these days, even it's a couple days that we see on the news that what the Taliban says, that we forgive everyone, government or those people that work with the foreigners and organizations. But it's also something that still I'm thinking it's in dreaming, but we will see. But it's very soon to talk about it. But now they are saying on the media, the spokesman of Taliban, that everybody's free. We don't want to stop anyone. Everybody can. We forgive everyone. But we will see. The future will show what will happen in a few couple months.
I hope they keep their word. Now, Utah Governor Spencer Cox, he sent a letter to President Biden saying that he would like to offer help to anyone who is fleeing Afghanistan. What are your thoughts about that?
I think, as I mentioned before, that Utah is one of the greatest states, and that always welcome the immigrants, asylum seekers. I think I really appreciating what the Utah Governor Cox did, and hopefully that Biden administration will accept this, and we will welcome those Afghans that come to Utah, and Utah pupils are nice, the community are good to live and raise kids.
Now we have about 30 seconds left, so we have to wrap. Real quick, how are you thinking about the future of Afghanistan as a whole?
As a whole, let me tell you something that it's very soon to talk about it. Right now, the political situation in Afghanistan is complicated. There is no government, but we will see. I hope that everything will go better, but it's soon to talk about it.
Yeah, we are sending all of our love to you.
Thank you.
You've been hearing from Amanullah Rahimi, who is a board member for the Afghan American Cultural Society. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
We're sending you our well wishes.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Earlier today, we spoke with Professor Amos Giora, who teaches at the S.J. Quinney College of Law at the University of Utah and studies extremism and counterterrorism. He shared his interpretation of the turmoil overseas and what he'll be watching for in the upcoming days. Professor, what are your thoughts about how fast the Taliban gained control in Afghanistan?
If this is a profound failure of intelligence gathering, or a profound failure of intelligence analysis. Whether it's this or this, it's extraordinary. And I think to the larger question, which is really what you're getting at, not for the first time and not for the last time, I deliberately make a face. It reflects the extent to which the U.S. simply does not understand the Middle East writ large. The idea of viewing Afghanistan as a Western nation state, Westphalian democracy and all that, just a total misread. And it's extraordinary.
What can you tell us about Middle Eastern geopolitics?
So Middle East geopolitics is a complicated part of the world. The enemy of my enemy is my friend and all of that. The elephant in the room is obviously Iran. And the question is, U.S. Iran, Israel Iran, in terms of Iran's nuclear capability. But I think more importantly than that, if I were king of the day in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, and so on, I'm asking myself the following question: if I hitch my wagon to America, the way that the anti-Taliban forces did in Afghanistan, and the U.S. leaves, I'm left high and dry. And I would think that those countries in the Middle East who've hitched their wagon to America in the context of Iran need to be really concerned about what is American commitment to fill in the blank. What does it really mean? And to your question about geopolitics in the Middle East, I think the takeaway from Afghanistan, as it literally unfolds in front of us, is that there are going to be difficult questions asked by leaders of all of these states about, is there potentially a negative cost to being so openly affiliated with the United States of America?
We've been seeing images of civilians chasing down planes on the tarmac in Kabul, comparisons between what happened in Saigon in 1975 and what's happening in Kabul now. In the upcoming days, what are you going to be watching for?
One, the extent to which the Taliban undertakes what I greatly fear will be a horrific bloodbath of opponents. What will happen to women in Afghanistan, I fear, will be unimaginable. And what will happen to those who were perceived as collaborating with the United States, I fear for them also. That's one. Two, I worry about how Middle East countries will perceive America's steadfastness in terms of its anti-Iran policy. And three, I ask myself whether the graphics, the visuals, will lead Americans to increasingly disentangle from the world. And as one who believes in the need for American involvement in the world, not domination, but involvement, there's a big difference there. The pictures, the graphics, as you correctly note, may have that as a consequence, and that worries me a lot.
In a press conference, the Taliban assured the safety of anybody who's worked with the U.S., a number who are hiding right now out of fear of their own safety. Can we trust the word of the Taliban?
History shows that the Taliban are utterly and totally ruthless, as ruthless can be ruthless, locked in religious ideology, or the ideology of religion, the religion of ideology, whichever, with this extraordinary perception of women. I mean, extraordinary as a negative perception of women, the role of women. I mean, you asked me the three things that worry me. I really, really fear for the future of women in Afghanistan. And I would hope, I don't know with what success, that the world, which is focused on COVID, I understand that, needs to understand that we are, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, I think we're inches away from a horrific genocide.
That is devastating. Professor, final words. What would you like to leave our viewers with tonight as they're thinking about the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan?
I think that one of the important takeaways for Americans is the next time there's a rush to war, to try to think not about today, but think about down the road. And you're right to mention, as you know, the visuals of Saigon from 1975. This is instant replay. The helicopter over the embassy then, the plane on the tarmac now. You know, war is a terrible business. You know how it starts. You have no idea how it ends. Cliche, true. And I don't think that Bush, when he went into Iraq and Afghanistan, had any understanding where this was all going to end up. Biden gets credit for getting us out, but the rush in needs to be tempered by somebody saying, wait, time out, put on the brakes and ask yourselves, where the hell is all this going to lead to? And what will happen when we leave? That was clearly never thought through at all. Those who were involved in the original decision-making, you know, as an academic, we were in the business of grading, they all get an F. And the best grade they can get is an F.
Professor, we are out of time, but thank you so much for your insight tonight. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure, anytime.
And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you about the show. We invite you to join our Facebook group by searching ABC4 In Focus, or send us an email, infocus@abc4.com.